Hey everyone and welcome. So today, we're jumping into a topic that's become a huge deal for schools and universities, educational assessment. You know, it's not just some small detail anymore, it's become absolutely critical in shaping how we all learn.
I mean, really stop and think about that for a second. What if a test wasn't just about the final grade? What if it could actually guide a student's entire learning journey? Let's forget that old school report card for a minute. Picture this instead, a kind of GPS for learning. A tool that shows you exactly where you are, where you're trying to go, and, the best way to get there.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we're going to totally rethink what assessment even is. Then, we'll crack open the teacher's toolbox to see all the different methods. After that, we'll get into what actually makes a test good versus, well, not so good. We'll tackle the huge challenge of academic integrity, and finally, we'll see how all these pieces click together in a real-world system.
Okay, let's get right into it with our first section. We are moving way beyond just putting a letter grade on an exam. We're really talking about a fundamental shift in what assessment can do and what it should do in a modern classroom. So what exactly is a modern assessment system anyway? Look, it's not just some software you use to run tests. Think of it more like the entire operating system for how we evaluate learning. It's this whole framework that manages everything, from writing the questions all the way to analyzing the results. And it's all laser-focused on one big goal: making teaching way more effective and making sure students are actually succeeding. And you can see right here, the purpose is just so much bigger than a simple score. I mean, when you can accurately measure what students are learning, the whole institution gets clear data it can stand by. That data then helps teachers fine-tune their methods, and that, in turn, helps students grow with personalized feedback. It becomes this amazing self-improving cycle that really drives excellence for everyone involved. All right, so let's move on to our next section and see how this all builds on itself. If assessment isn't just one single thing, then teachers need a whole bunch of different tools, right? It's like a mechanic doesn't just have one wrench, they've got a whole toolbox. A great teacher needs the same thing, a full toolbox of assessments, with each one designed for a very specific job.
Okay, so let's peek inside that toolbox. It all kicks off with a diagnostic test. You use that before a course even starts to figure out what students already know. Then, during the course, you've got your formative assessments. Think quick quizzes that give you real-time feedback. Summative is that classic final exam, right? It measures what was learned at the very end. But, and this is a big one, we can't forget performance-based tasks. These are things like projects that show if a student can actually apply what they've learned. And finally, you have benchmark tests to track progress against key standards over the long haul.
Okay, so we have this great toolbox, but how do we actually know if the tools inside are any good? What separates a genuinely useful and fair test from something that's just a waste of time? Well, that's what we're digging into right now.
Well, it really comes down to four, I'd say, non-negotiable pillars. First up, reliability. This just means if a student took a similar test a week later, their scores should be pretty much the same. It's consistent. Second is validity. This is huge. The test has to actually measure what it says it's measuring. If you're testing algebra, the questions better be about algebra, not some tricky vocabulary. Third, fairness. This is all about making sure the test is free from bias and gives every single student an equal shot, no matter their background. And finally, and this is kind of the secret sauce, actionable analytics. The data you get back has to tell a story. It has to show why students are struggling. Is it one specific concept? Did the entire class bomb question 5? That's an insight a teacher can actually do something with. Now, this brings us to one of the biggest hurdles in modern education, especially with remote learning just exploding everywhere: academic integrity. Seriously, how do you maintain trust and make sure it's a level playing field for everyone when students aren't even in the same room?
And wow, this slide really captures that shift, doesn't it? Old school exams, especially online, were just a constant source of stress and, let's be honest, pretty easy to cheat on. But the game has totally changed with secure proctoring. These systems use some pretty cool tools like AI monitoring of webcams and microphones to flag anything that looks suspicious. It creates an environment that really protects the integrity of the exam. And listen, this isn't just about catching cheaters. It's about building confidence, so students know that the results are credible and the whole system is fair.
So, that leads to the big question, right? How on earth can a single institution manage all of this stuff? All the different assessment types, those 4 pillars of what makes a good test, and this huge challenge of academic integrity. Well, that's exactly where these fully integrated systems come into play. So let's look at a real-world example of how it all works: the Qorrect system.
So Qorrect is basically designed from the ground up to be that all-in-one solution we've been talking about. The whole goal is to streamline the entire assessment process, making it not just easier for teachers, but a whole lot smarter and more secure for everybody involved. And this is where you can really see how it connects all the dots. Remember that toolbox of different tests we needed? Well, its design tools, which even have AI support, can build all of them. Worried about grading that's slow or biased? It's all automated for speed and precision. That massive academic integrity problem? Solved. It has integrated smart proctoring built right in. And what about that actionable data we said was so important? It delivers advanced analytics. It's really built to be that one-stop shop for both online and in-person learning.
And at the end of the day, this is the core idea. The ultimate goal of a perfect system isn't just to test people. It's about creating this data-driven culture that lifts up the entire institution, empowers students, and actually gets them ready for the challenges they're going to face out in the real world.
So that leaves us with one last, kind of provocative thought to chew on. We're already seeing AI help out with proctoring and even writing test questions. But as this technology gets exponentially smarter, what's next? What will student assessment actually look like in 5 or maybe even 10 years? I think the answer to that question is going to shape the future of